Hello there, and thank you very much indeed for watching this very short video answering the question, what is a Zen garden? About 100,000 plus people put that phrase into Google every month. So I thought, well, as I'm interested in Japanese gardens, in fact, I'm massively interested in them. My name is Russ, I'm based in the UK. I thought that I would make a short video to show you some Zen gardens and explain a little bit about them. This is what they look like. This is quite a large scale one. You can see that it's got a bridge incorporated in it, and you can see that there is some gravel there that will be raked in the shape of water, given the depiction of waves. You've got rocks, very large rocks incidentally. The larger the garden, the larger the rocks. That's generally the rule. And they're placed in a certain way, and it gives a real sort of feeling of serenity, and is really nice to look at. Now, you don't have to have a big area like that to have a Zen garden. In fact, you can have a very, very, very small space, as you'll discover towards the middle of this video. Have a look at this Zen garden now. It's a small space Zen garden, and you can see that there is a sanded area. That is silver sand, very, very fine sand. There are 3 rocks there that depict mountains. The sand is the sea and will be raked, and you can probably see if you come straight down from the 3 rocks, you see a little sort of green circle. That is in fact grass, and it has another rock sort of pointing upwards, and it's quite difficult to see, and that is an island. So that's one thing you can do, but that is about approximately 4 meters long and about, at its widest point, 1.5 meters wide. And that's actually a Zen garden that I built at my home, which is in the United Kingdom. But you can have a much larger space Zen garden. Look at the beautiful topiary there. If you look at my shaped bush there, it took me quite a long time to do, but it's quite striking, isn't it? On a massive scale, look at that one. This is a Zen garden, or a Japanese rock garden, as they're sometimes called, from Japan. So what do they mean? Well, they are creations that reflect the simplicity of life, and I think this is perhaps their attraction. There is a religious meaning, there is a de-stressing kind of feeling to a Zen garden, and this is what attracts people. Inspired by Buddhism and Chinese culture that became popular in Japan. A lot of people perhaps don't know, maybe you do, that Japanese gardening actually was imported, for want of a better expression, from China, and then developed by particularly the religious monks of Japan. And Zen gardens is what they were absolute specialists in, and there are some amazing ones that you could see that are hundreds of years old in Kyoto. But as the countries traded, they exchanged culture as well, and that is why Japanese gardens are the way they are today, with a little helping hand from the Chinese. Zen gardens are ideal for reflecting in, relaxing in, meditating in, and they should have more than one meaning for the viewer. For example, the Ryogenji in Kyoto, one of the most famous Zen gardens in the world. I think it's got 14 or 15 rocks in it, sitting amongst gravel. And wherever you view that garden from, you cannot count all the rocks in one go. It's brilliantly and mathematically put together, and is designed to intrigue the viewer, because when you look at it from another angle, you spot another rock that you haven't seen on the previous look. So you can be very clever with these kind of things. And in fact, there are many Zen gardens all over the world that have specialist people who visit them and check that the rocks are at the right angle and what have you. So that's taking it to a very complicated degree, and I don't want you to be put off by that. So where we are in this is less is more. Simplicity in the design and the simplicity of ingredients is the key. You do not plant shrubs and trees within the sanded area or a gravel area of a Zen garden if you want to be absolutely true to their principles. Tidiness, precision, and nature are the essential ingredients of a good Zen garden. So you can put bushes around the outside and a tree around the outside. Maybe you would want to put a Japanese basin for some water. All that is possible, of course, but the actual Zen garden space is about purity and minimalism, and they are the top 2 requirements of a Zen garden. No single feature, this is really important, should dominate the garden. So when you saw mine, clearly the sanded area is the biggest area, but The rocks don't overpower the sanded area. The sand doesn't overpower the rocks. It is just something you look at in one go and interpret it in the way that you feel it should be interpreted. And a lot of people really like this type of garden and prefer to experiment with a Zen style garden as opposed to a Zen garden. What do I mean by that? What I mean is you take rocks, sand, gravel, certain Japanese shrubs and plants, certainly if they're sort of compatible with the climate that you live in, and they place that within the confines of a Western style garden just to give it a Japanese flavour, and that can be really effective. So if that's what you're thinking of doing, I would say to you that the ingredients of a Zen garden, the gravel and the rocks, can look really, really effective. And Zen gardens sometimes, particularly in North America, are known as Japanese rock gardens. You can have large space Zen gardens, small space, really small. I've even seen one built in an eggshell. You can even have one for your tabletop as well, which I'll show you in a minute. So the three types of Zen gardens: reduced scale, sand and gravel, bodies of water, the rocks are hills and mountains. There's a symbolization Zen garden. Once upon a time, Zen gardens depicted imaginary places on earth, imaginary realms where kings and queens would live. But in the 21st century, it's miniature landscapes that are often copied or inspired by real ones that people use for the design elements of their Zen garden. Of course, you can use your imagination. There's nothing wrong with that. And Shake, a confined space that utilizes natural ingredients to mimic scenery. So the principles are pretty much the same. This is a tabletop Zen garden. Pottery square, probably about 1.5 inches deep, sand in it, 3 rocks, then you've got an island with another rock, and it hasn't been raked. You can get these little miniature rakes for tabletop Zen gardens, but they look quite effective. Probably you can find better looking ones than that one, but I just wanted to show you how simple they are. A courtyard style Zen garden is something that's been around really since the late 13th century. It was the merchants in Japan who had the money, and the houses very common were little courtyards that were naturally built into them, and the rooms would all come off those courtyards. That they decided they would like to build a garden space so that when they were sitting, eating, or relaxing, they could look out. And the result is a courtyard garden, and there are some really spectacular ones around the world. So remember, any size goes. It just depends on your imagination and space, which is a nice couple of requirements. And you can find out a lot more about Zen gardens, including their history, the meaning of them, which is pretty religious. Buddhism is a very important aspect of Zen gardening, which is why the monks of Japan were the early purveyors of designing them and instructed people what their meanings were, and actually getting a great deal of comfort from them as well, and relaxing and meditating in them. You can find out about the types of Zen gardens and a lot more about what they are and what they mean and how they developed. The ingredients that you can put in a Zen garden or a Zen style garden, ideally if you're thinking about making one at home. If you are thinking of making your own Zen garden, you can find out what you need to know, plus building a small Zen garden. There's a step-by-step guide which will take you through the process with pictures, and Japanese courtyard gardens. You can find out all about them, and they're one of my favorite types of Japanese gardens. And the place where you can find it all out is in my new book, Japanese Zen Gardens. It's available at Amazon for Kindle. If you haven't got a Kindle, don't worry. You can go to my website, whatisazengarden.com, and there's lots of information on there already. You can find out more about the book. And the good news is that I'm launching a Japanese newsletter, Japanese Garden newsletter, in January of 2013. And people are signing up now to be on the list, so they're not going to miss out on audio interviews, pictures, more videos and slideshows like this, articles, the latest Japanese garden news from all over the world. It's going to be such a brilliant newsletter, and you can sign up for it. It's called the Japanese Garden Bulletin, and all you've got to do is go to www.japanesegardenbook.com. You'll get an email back just confirming that you're signed up. Of course, if you change your mind, you can unsubscribe. I hope you won't do that. And from early January, you will begin to get a series of weekly emails from me that will have tons of information, not only on Zen gardens, but Japanese gardens and Japanese gardening. around the world. So I've got some really exciting stuff lined up for you. I hope you found this information useful about Zen gardens. They are one of the most striking and beautiful types of Japanese garden that you can build simply, and it has to be said, fairly cheaply at home. More about that in my book, and thank you very much indeed for watching.